I am at the 2017 Public Funds Forum with Benjamin Bingham, who recently published a book called Making Money Matter. And he earlier gave a presentation about impact investing, and I think that's something that really resonates with millennials. So I wanted to talk to him about a few questions I had about millennial money management. So the first question I had is, what do you think the most important step millennials can take right now on managing their personal finances?
Well, I think one thing that every young person should do, I'm talking as a certified financial planner, just a simple thing is just to set aside 10% of whatever you earn.
I completely agree. Would you say just a regular savings account, or would you say a retirement account, or would you kind of split those two, like 5% in a retirement account and 5% in a regular savings account?
So much depends on who they are, and how much they want to worry about it and manage it. And some people like to get into really watching their money and doing innovative things with it. Mm-hmm. There's some really neat things that have happened in the last few years, and I think will happen more and more. One of them is peer-to-peer lending. So just like the millennials brought Kiva, which is a way you can give money or loan money and with no interest and get it back. You're not really going to save for retirement doing that. But there are now ways you can online loan money. And if you do it carefully, I think it can be very smart. Of course, it's full of some risk. Mm-hmm. So I always recommend, just like with any money manager, to be as diversified as possible. So you can go onto these peer-to-peer lending sites and find somebody that you can relate to that maybe got in trouble with a credit card and they're now offering 15% because they're now at 25%.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I hadn't even heard of that before, but that's a fantastic idea.
It's risky, but it is a way to generate income more quickly. But I wouldn't just do one. I would do several small loans, ideally up to 20, with different risk profiles. Some of them will look. It's a little bit like Kiva or Facebook, where you can learn a bit about the person and why they're need to be loaned some money. Yeah,
so diversify your risk too.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
There's also a wonderful, I like, if you have a little more money that you've saved up, there's a wonderful website, and there's going to be more and more of these with peer-to-peer lending and crowdfunding. Yeah. One of them is American Homeowners Preservation Fund, where you can loan money that actually keeps people in their homes. So the guy who started it is a good friend of mine. He wrote a wonderful book called Burn Zone. His name is George Newberry, and like I said, our clients are invested in it, full disclosure. And we were early investors. But his purpose was to take large bundles of mortgages that were about to go into foreclosure from the bank. So he would bid 15 cents on the dollar or up to 50 cents on the dollar. That's the most he would pay for low-end houses, under $100,000 mortgages.
Yep.
And then he would so the bank would be glad to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Then his team would go to the house, and sometimes there was no one living there, and then they would just sell it. But if there were people living there, then they would they'd figure out what rent they could pay.
Yep.
And that, because they paid so little for the mortgage, this rent is then just paid back to the investors.
Yeah.
So they pay 12% for 5 years if you keep your money in it. So that's a higher kind of return.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that mindset that you have, that you mentioned in your presentation, that you went into money management because you thought it was a great way to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that millennials want to do. They want to make a difference, and they don't typically see money as a way to do that. They kind of think money is evil. And in your book, you said, what did you say exactly?
Well, the actual quote from the Bible, if you're religious, in Timothy, it says the love of money is so most people say money is the root of all evil, right? And in the Bible, it actually, I think the real translation is money, the love of money is the root of all the evil.
Yes.
So it's not the money itself that's evil, it's loving it like you might love.
Yeah.
Well, it's just you get drawn into it and you lose control and it becomes like a cancer.
Yeah, and in reality, money is just a tool and it can be used for good.
Right.
So I love that. That's fantastic. So the second question I wanted to ask is, do you think millennials have different priorities and values than older generations? And if so, do you think that's shown through their the way they want to manage their money?
I definitely hope so, and I think so.
Yeah.
I actually came up with it. It's funny. It must have been in the air, but I thought of the name Millennial when I realized I was. I took a couple of years off and taught a class in a Waldorf school. They were looking for a teacher for 7th and 8th grade, and I was in between things. This was before I started managing money. And the millennial, they were born in 79 and 80, and I just felt there was something different about them. So I came up with this idea that they'll turn 21 right around the turn of the millennium. So I actually called them in my mind millennials.
Okay.
Yeah, so I felt like there was a new generation, and I have one son who's a millennial, and then my other children are older.
Yep.
And I feel like they're more like the tail end of the hippie generation in a way.
Yeah.
And they're kind of nostalgic for the way things were in the 70s and 60s, but the millennials are not. They saw the love generation become the Gordon Gekko,
Yep.
greed is good generation, and they don't like at least my experience is that they don't like the hypocrisy of that. They just inherently also are more practical, so they grew up with technology, and we may have invented a lot of technology, my generation, but you grew up with it, and so you actually know, you have all this information at your fingertips. You know that you have the possibility of making a difference, and that you see the world in a global way.
Exactly.
You grew up with that.
I think that's all the questions I had for you today. Do you want to add anything else?
Well, just I hope that the millennial generation will remain so highly thought of. You hear about it all the time, that you care about the environment, that you care about each other, that you're not hypocrites, that you want to make a difference. You won't work for companies that don't care about the environment and society. All those things are great, but we were, like I said, we were considered the love generation. I think we were born after Hiroshima and came with a sort of, we've got to bring peace to the world, and then we really failed.
Yeah. Well, I hope my generation doesn't lose that. And
I hope so too.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.